In 1943, the British government made a bold move by taking a deceased homeless man, outfitting him with a Royal Marines uniform, securing a briefcase to his wrist with handcuffs, and casting him into a sea near Spain. This act wasn't deemed illegal as it was part of a strategic plan, and remarkably, it proved so effective that it likely preserved the lives of tens of thousands. In 1943, the Allies had successfully driven the Axis forces out of North Africa, and it was clear to everyone, and I mean everyone, what the next step would be. The logical move was to launch an invasion of Sicily. On a clear day, you could see it from Tunisia. Winston Churchill famously remarked, quote, "Anyone but the goddamn fool would know it's Sicily." And this presents a challenge. If Churchill can deduce this, so can Hitler, who was heavily fortifying Sicily. Thus, British intelligence faced a dilemma. How can you invade the most predictable location on the planet without it resulting in a bloodbath? The solution? It was to persuade the Nazis that it wasn't the obvious choice. The concept originated from a man named Erwin and the Royal Air Force officer named Charles. Their plan was audacious. They intended to locate a deceased individual, assign him a fictitious identity as a British officer, place counterfeit top-secret documents on him, and leave him where the Germans would discover him. The documents would indicate the Allies were planning to invade Greece and Sardinia rather than Sicily. Sicily was merely a diversion. The twist was that, for this scheme to succeed, every minute detail had to be flawless. The Germans were not fools. If anything seemed amiss, the entire war strategy could unravel. And this is where it becomes strangely beautiful. Step 1, the body. They required an individual whose death could convincingly be attributed to drowned at sea. After numerous uncomfortable discussions with the coroners, they discovered a man named Michael, a homeless Welshman who had passed away from ingesting rat poison. His lungs were filled with fluids. It was close enough to drowning that a Spanish coroner would likely overlook it. Step 2, the identity. They created the persona, Major Williams Martin, from the Royal Marines. But they didn't just stop at a name. They crafted an entire life for him. A photograph of a fiancée named Pam. In reality, she was a genuine MI5 clerk who consented to pose. 2 love letters from Pam, handwritten and slightly stained with tears. A bill for an engagement ring that he could barely afford. A disgruntled letter from his father. A notice from his bank warning him about an overdraft. Theatre ticket stubs from a London performance just 4 days before he supposedly died. Evidence that he was alive on a particular date. A receipt for a new shirt from an upscale store. A used bus ticket. Every single item in that collection was either fabricated or authentically created. The intention was for any German intelligence officer who opened the briefcase to feel as though he was delving into a man's entire existence. Then came the true bombshell. A letter from a high-ranking British general addressed to a commander in Tunisia, casually indicating that the actual targets were Greece and Sardinia, while the Allies were spreading false information about Sicily as a diversion, specifically identifying Sicily as a decoy. And that was the chef's kiss. On April 30th, 1943, a British submarine named HMS Seraph surfaced near Huelva in southern Spain. The crew carefully placed the body, now dressed in a Royal Marines uniform, with a briefcase secured to his wrist and a life jacket on, into the sea. Spain was officially neutral. However, it was widely known that Spain was teeming with the German spies, particularly in Huelva. If a deceased British officer were to wash ashore there, those documents would undoubtedly make their way into Berlin. The next morning, a Spanish fisherman discovered him. Local authorities retrieved his body. Then, just as anticipated, a German agent in Spain acquired the briefcase, photographs of the contents, and sent the information up the chain. It eventually reaches Hitler's decks. Hitler is completely convinced. He believes wholeheartedly that the invasion is aimed at Greece, prompting him to relocate an entire Panzer division from France to Greece. He bolsters forces in Sardinia and withdraws troops from Sicily. When the Allies actually landed in Sicily 2 months later, the German resistance was significantly weaker than it should have been. The invasion was more successful than any had anticipated. Some historians suggest that Operation Mincemeat saved tens of thousands of Allied lives, possibly even more. A coded message was sent back to Churchill confirming that the ruse had succeeded. He stated, "And I assure you, I'm not fabricating this." Mincemeat swallowed whole. Michael, the homeless individual whose remains led to the remarkable turn of events, was interred in Spain with full military honors under the alias William Martin. His true identity was not inscribed on the tombstone until 1998. A staggering 55 years later, a man who passed away in solitude and poverty within a London warehouse inadvertently influenced the course of the Second World War. If you enjoyed the story, please like and subscribe. Thank you.